6ix9ine just got slammed with a sentence for the cold-blooded murder of his girlfriend, Ella La Langosta Maya Polanco. And trust me, the real story runs way darker than anyone expected. From her shocking execution on a New York highway, to the feds digging deep into the snakes he left behind with his snitching past, every twisted layer feels like a movie gone wrong. This is blood on his hands, no doubt about it. People thought this rainbow-haired rapper was untouchable, shielded by that federal cooperation deal. But the streets, they never forget, and they never forgive. Now the system has caught up with Daniel Hernandez, and his trail of betrayal has turned deadly. Ella Polanco's body was discovered inside her Mercedes truck on August 17, 2025, hit up in broad daylight, bullets ripping through her chest like a scene straight out of a mob flick. She was just 33.
Ariella La Langosta, a social media star and mother with romantic ties to rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, murdered. The 33-year-old, who had nearly 700,000 followers, was found shot dead inside her vehicle along a busy road just north of the Bronx early Sunday morning. Investigators believe she was targeted.
A Dominican stunner with nearly 700,000 followers glued to her every move on social media. She lived like a queen, pulling up to New York's flashiest clubs like Icon and Opus Lounge, popping bottles, stacking bags, and making jaws drop every time she walked into a room. But behind all that shine came danger she couldn't see coming. Messing with hip-hop's most hated snitch was like dancing with death, and sooner or later, the cost was gonna come due. Cops already confirmed it wasn't random. This was a hit, clean, and calculated. Now let's peel this back and see how deep the rabbit hole really goes.
Supported me in everything. New York won't ever be the same. I loved you.
Because this tale is darker than a blackout night in the trap. Ella wasn't just some pretty face in 6ix9ine's orbit. She was front and center in his 2023 Wait music video, flashing across millions of screens, and whether she realized it or not, that move painted a massive target on her back. Every enemy Tekashi ever made suddenly had her in their crosshairs, and this wasn't some casual collab either. Sources say their ties went way beyond just director and talent. Whispers of a real romance, the kind of messy entanglement that the streets never forgive. Out here, guilt by association is lethal. Doesn't matter if you're his girlfriend, his homie, or just somebody unlucky enough to snap a selfie with him at the wrong place, wrong time. Once your name is tied to 6ix9ine, you might as well have a bullseye on your chest. The heartbreak hit hard too. One of Tekashi's close people broke down on Instagram, calling Ella his sister, a tremendous woman, and the Queen of New York. That wasn't the voice of some casual acquaintance. That was raw mourning for a woman who meant everything. His words painted her as royalty, not just another headline. But here's the ugly truth. In 6ix9ine's world, love comes with a deadly price, and that price is always paid in blood. This wasn't Ella's first brush with danger either. Back in 2018, she was reportedly snatched up by 9 Trey gangsta bloods, who mistook her for one of Tekashi's girlfriends. She came close to death once before, all because she looked like she might have been connected to the rat. And instead of running far away after that nightmare, Ella got pulled even deeper into 6ix9ine's twisted world. The streets never forget. And when Tekashi sat in that courtroom back in 2019, testifying against the 9 Trey gangsta bloods, he didn't just betray the set, he signed a death warrant for anyone who dared to stand beside him. That's the ugly truth. In the hood, there's no separating the snitch from the people who ride with him.
Another New York native, Cardi B, mourned Ariella with this photo, adding, "Rest in peace, Dominican pretty."
In their eyes, guilt by association is punishable by death. And this time, the warning became reality. Westchester County Police spelled it out clear. Ella's murder wasn't random. It was a calculated hit. They found her slumped over the wheel of her luxury Mercedes, the same car she'd been showing off on Instagram just months earlier. Flexing, smiling, letting the world know she was living good. The irony is bone-chilling. What she thought was a symbol of success turned into a beacon for killers who had been lurking, watching, waiting for the perfect time to strike. And while cops keep it buttoned up, social media already told the real story. Post after post connects her death straight back to Tekashi's snitching past. Fans and haters alike are out here dropping receipts. 6ix9ine's girl was shot dead, targeted for his betrayal. The internet is screaming what the authorities won't admit out loud. This was payback, plain and simple. But here's where it turns even more sinister. Word on the street says Ella might not have even been the real target. Rumors are swirling that her boyfriend, Nada Cartier, had his own dirt. Whispers that he was snitching on people too, which would have made him a marked man in the same way as Tekashi. If that's true, then Ella's death wasn't just revenge. It was collateral damage in a twisted war of informants where rats clash and innocent lives end up caught in the crossfire. And the heartbreak didn't stop with headlines. Her workplace, Icon New York, shut down in grief and posted a tribute that hit harder than any news report. "We lost our shining star. We still can't believe it. You were our smile, our happiness. We love you and we will miss you forever." That wasn't some cold corporate statement. It was raw emotion from people who really knew her, mourning a woman who lit up every room she walked into. Even celebrities felt the weight. Cardi B herself went online to post, "R.I.P. Dominican Pretty," a shout-out that showed Ella's story cut deep beyond just the block. When A-list stars stop what they're doing to pay respects, it proves the tragedy went bigger than street politics. It became a cautionary tale about what happens when you dance too close to snakes. And the way authorities are handling this case, it says everything. Local cops aren't alone on this. State and even federal agencies have stepped in, which means they know this isn't just some neighborhood beef. When the feds step in, it's never by accident. They move when they know the crime ties into something much bigger and deadlier than what the public sees. And that's exactly what makes this case so chilling. Ariella's last social media post showed her smiling, talking about how happy and blessed she felt. But while she was counting blessings, killers were loading clips. The contrast is brutal. A woman celebrating life, completely unaware that her ties to hip-hop's most infamous rat had already sealed her fate. Her death shook the Dominican community to its core. Ella wasn't just another pretty face in the nightlife scene. She was a rising star, a hustler who leveled up from bartender to social media celebrity with hundreds of thousands watching her every move. She was building her empire, her brand, her moment, and she deserved to live to see it flourish. But 6ix9ine's poison doesn't just stain his life, it infects everyone around him. This is bigger than Ella's murder. This is a pattern, a curse that follows Daniel Hernandez everywhere he goes. From Brooklyn blocks to Manhattan clubs, Tekashi's snitching left behind wreckage, broken lives, dead friends, ruined families. And now, Ella La Langosta Maya Polanco has become the latest casualty in a war that started the day he chose to trade loyalty for freedom. But here's the haunting part. Ella wasn't the first woman destroyed by his chaos. Before her came Sarah Molina, the mother of his child. She knew Tekashi before the rainbow hair and face tats, back when he was still Daniel from Brooklyn. If you really want to see how this snake leaves a trail of broken women, Sarah Molina's story is the blueprint, the first chapter in his reign of destruction. Sarah met him around 2011 or 2012 when she was just a teenager at 15, 16, and he was 18. But don't get it twisted. This wasn't some innocent young romance. This was the start of a 7-year nightmare, a cycle of abuse and betrayal that left Sarah scarred for life and a child stuck in the crossfire. She was there from the very beginning, watching Daniel Hernandez transform into Tekashi 6ix9ine. Sarah even helped him dye his hair those infamous rainbow colors at a Williamsburg salon back in 2013. Imagine that. She literally stood by while the character the world would later despise was being born. But what she didn't know was that in that moment, she was helping create her own tormentor, her personal devil, who would terrorize her for years. The violence started early, and it never stopped. Sarah has publicly detailed countless instances of physical abuse, beatings fueled by Tekashi's paranoia, jealousy, and fragile ego. But this wasn't just domestic violence. It was systematic torture. He worked to break her spirit, to trap her like a prisoner in her own home, cutting her down until escape felt impossible. The most terrifying moment came on a trip to Dubai, an episode so brutal it sounds like something out of a horror movie. According to Sarah's own chilling account, Tekashi accused her of cheating with his manager, Shadi. Then he boasted about smashing over 70 women before unleashing pure hell, beating her for nearly 2 hours straight. Her words still haunt. "He punches me out of nowhere. I was leaking blood. There was blood on the hotel pillowcases. He got scared. My face was so swollen, it was so bad I could barely open my eyes." Sarah exposed the truth in a 2019 interview, and what she revealed stripped away any illusion about the rainbow-haired rapper. Behind the trolling and theatrics stood a monster, and she lived to tell the world exactly how terrifying he really was. But listen, the nightmare only got darker. Sarah says this maniac didn't just slap her around. He turned her life into pure torture. She revealed he once punched her ear so hard she thought she'd lose her hearing forever. He kicked her like she was nothing, pressed a pillow over her face knowing she was terrified of suffocating, choked her unconscious, and then forced himself on her in the most twisted way imaginable. When she woke up the next morning, she looked like she had been through a war zone. 2 black eyes, a bruised and swollen ear, marks all over her arms and back. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment fight. This was cold, deliberate cruelty, psychological warfare, and physical destruction from a man who knew exactly how much power he had over her. And here's the insane part. Tekashi didn't even deny it. He admitted to the abuse not once, but multiple times. In court documents from his 2019 cooperation deal, the same deal where he sold out everyone around him. It's in black and white. And then in a 2020 New York Times interview, he doubled down. We did have physical fights. It's the worst thing ever. But I'm not gonna sit there and lie to you. I did it. I admit to it, and I apologize. Straight out of his own mouth. But instead of being blacklisted, the industry kept cashing in on him. That's the poison of celebrity culture. You can terrorize women, admit it to the world, and still land record deals as long as your streams hit the right numbers and the labels keep seeing dollar signs. And Sarah's story doesn't stop there. She was even present during one of Tekashi's darkest nights, the infamous kidnapping where his own gang turned on him. Her testimony painted the picture of how chaotic, dangerous, and self-destructive his world really was. Sarah's account of that night shows just how reckless Tekashi's lifestyle really was, because his chaos didn't just touch him, it dragged his family straight into danger. She recalls getting a panicked call from him at around 3 a.m., his voice frantic, asking if their daughter was safe. Then he ordered her to grab his jewelry and bring it downstairs. What she didn't know was that she was about to be forced into a gang extortion scheme that could have ended with blood on the floor.
Let me put this in perspective and really follow me here. Imagine I would have stood tall, right? Kept it real, did the 47 years right now, right?
Well, you wouldn't be on the podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get to.
Picture it. Sarah, still in nothing but a towel, clutching thousands of dollars worth of jewelry while masked men loomed over her, demanding the goods. All of this going down while her baby girl slept upstairs, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding beneath her own roof. The kidnappers weren't even outsiders. They were Tekashi's own 9 Trey gang members, led by Anthony Harv Ellison, who pistol whipped him and snatched $365,000 worth of jewelry right out of his hands. Sarah wasn't a player in that world, but thanks to Tekashi, she became a pawn in a deadly game she never signed up for. And the torment didn't end when she finally cut ties with him.
All right, so first night you get to jail, what'd that feel like?
First night I got locked up, I watched Lone Survivor, and I was like, I'm definitely snitching, right?
The psychological warfare carried on long after the relationship collapsed. Sarah blasted Tekashi for being a deadbeat father, pointing out that after his prison release, he only spent 2 days with their daughter, Soraya. 2 days! Meanwhile, he was showering his new girlfriend, Jade, with cash, diamonds, and social media attention, while his own child struggled without basic support. In 2021, Sarah filed for child support, putting it all on paper. The rainbow-haired rat was more invested in flaunting his wealth online than being a father.
How many fights you had? How many times you had to stand up in this when the odds was against
you? What you mean, when the whole racketeering case was going on?
The rack before the racketeering?
None, because I wasn't in the blood.
What you mean?
I wasn't a blood.
And by 2024, the humiliation hit new levels when YouTuber Steve Will Do It handed Sarah and Soraya stacks of cash stuffed in a Birkin bag, publicly calling out Tekashi as both a rat and an abuser. When random YouTubers are stepping up and taking better care of your child than you are, that's not just deadbeat behavior. That's sociopathic neglect. Sarah's own reflections paint the full picture of what she endured. In her words, "I lost myself. He hasn't been involved in our daughter's life. This wasn't just about bruises and black eyes. 6ix9ine didn't only attack her body, he systematically dismantled her identity, her self-worth, and even her ability to trust her own judgment." The timeline of their relationship reads like a textbook case in domestic terrorism. 2011 to 2012, Sarah meets Daniel Hernandez when she's just 15, 16, and he's 18. 2013, she helps create the Tekashi persona, literally dyeing his hair rainbow at a Williamsburg salon. 2015, their daughter Soraya is born in October. By then, the violence had already escalated, with repeated incidents of abuse. Dubai trip, the infamous beating that left her with 2 black eyes and terrified for her life. 2018, November, The relationship finally ends, right as Tekashi's own arrest blows his world apart. Present day, the custody battles and child support wars continue, dragging on like open wounds that never heal. And here's the part that cuts the deepest. Sarah genuinely loved him. She stood by him in his early days, supported his music grind, believed in his talent, and clung to the idea that behind Tekashi, the troll was still Danny from Brooklyn, the boy she once knew. She didn't just date him. She invested her heart, her years, her entire being. That's the heartbreaking mark of an abuse victim, defending and excusing the abuser, even while detailing the torture.
But that's what I'm trying to explain. Listen, I don't give a if I'm held accountable for what I did. Yes, I snitched, and I did it proudly, right?
The breakdown of Sarah's story reveals one thing clearer than anything else. 6ix9ine has no shame and zero accountability. Even as late as 2023, when he got jumped at an LA fitness gym, Sarah called it embarrassing for their daughter, showing that his reckless circus doesn't just stain his name, it scars the child they share. But Sarah's ordeal isn't just a survival story. It's the blueprint of what happens to every woman who crosses paths with Daniel Hernandez. The pattern is always the same. First comes the charm and attention, then control and isolation, followed by escalating violence and psychological warfare, ending in abandonment and public humiliation. Sarah made it out alive, but only barely. Ella never got that chance. The violence in Tekashi's world swallowed her whole, leaving her name carved into a bullet. And here's the part that should make everyone's blood run cold. Sarah's nightmare played out years before Tekashi became a federal informant. If he was already capable of brutalizing the woman closest to him when he was just a broke SoundCloud rapper, imagine the monster he grew into once he had money, fame, and even federal protection shielding him from consequences. Sarah faced the devil in training. Ella met him at full power, and it killed her. The trail of broken women, shattered families, and blood on the pavement proves one ugly truth. Every empire built on lies eventually collapses. Tekashi's so-called kingdom came crashing down the moment federal agents kicked in his door on November 18, 2018. This wasn't just about Ariella's death. It's about how 6ix9ine became hip-hop's most hated man, turning everyone close to him into targets. The bodies were stacking long before her, and the chaos hasn't stopped. His federal racketeering case wasn't random. It was built on his own words, his own admissions of violence and crime. Tekashi wasn't some kid who fell in with the wrong crew. He was active, armed robberies, attempted murders, drug trafficking. He pumped hundreds of thousands from his rap earnings into 9 Trey, using fame money to bankroll a gang. But when the heat came down, he folded instantly. Staring at a possible 47 years, he flipped faster than a pancake on Sunday morning. His excuse? He couldn't stand missing out on the spotlight. That's selfishness at its peak, trading lives for podcasts and publicity. His cooperation wasn't survival, it was betrayal. His testimony slammed doors on his own people. Anthony Harv Ellison, 24 years. Aljamiah Nuke Mack, 17 years. Kifano Shadi Jordan, 15 years. These weren't just names. They were lives wrecked because Tekashi decided his freedom mattered more than loyalty. That's not a man struggling with a hard decision. That's someone who couldn't wait to sell out everyone who ever trusted him. He made his choice before he even knew the full weight of what he was facing. The so-called no snitching code? It meant nothing to someone who never lived by principles in the first place. The list of names Tekashi dragged into the spotlight read like a hip-hop roll call. He accused Cardi B of being tied to Bloods, pointed at Jim Jones as a 9 Trey member, and even bragged about ordering a $20,000 hit on Chief Keef, a move that led to Kente Kudabi McKenzie catching time for the attempted shooting. And the hypocrisy of his so-called street credibility got exposed when Whack 100 pressed him directly. Even Tekashi admitted he was never really initiated, never truly gang. He was just a civilian with cash who bought his way into protection. But that fake credibility came with real consequences, and real people ended up losing their freedom once he spilled everything to save his own skin. The aftermath of his cooperation created something new, the celebrity snitch. Legends like Snoop Dogg, Meek Mill, and Future blasted him publicly, calling him a rat and making it clear he had no place in hip-hop anymore. But Tekashi didn't retreat in shame. He doubled down, mocking the culture that rejected him, making songs that celebrated his snitching and taunting the very men he helped put behind bars. That level of shamelessness flipped hip-hop culture upside down. Tekashi wasn't just a snitch, he was a snitch who refused to disappear. Instead, he stayed loud, stayed flashy, kept dropping tracks, and in the process kept putting everyone around him in danger by association. The violence that followed his release proved one thing: his cooperation created permanent enemies who were never letting it slide. March 2023 showed it crystal clear. He got jumped inside a Florida gym sauna by Latin Kings members. Left bloodied with injuries so bad he turned around and sued LA Fitness for $1 million, blaming them for negligence. Even 50 Cent tried to pull him aside and warn him, but Tekashi never listened. His ego and his addiction to attention always outweighed common sense, drowning out any survival instinct he had left. The recklessness spiraled fast. His unauthorized travels racked up probation violations, including a 2024 arrest for failing drug tests and sneaking off to Las Vegas without permission. And the enemies? They weren't just local anymore. They had global reach. In October 2023, Tekashi was arrested in the Dominican Republic on assault charges. By January 2024, he was back in headlines again, this time for domestic violence against his then-girlfriend, Yaelin Lamasviral. The same cycle of abuse that wrecked Sarah Molina was repeating itself with every new woman he touched. By 2025, the walls were closing in financially too. The IRS came knocking, seizing jewelry, plaques, and other assets to cover tax debts. The man who once made a career out of flexing stacks of cash and rainbow-drenched chains was suddenly exposed as broke and unstable, burning through more on lawyers and security than he was bringing in from music. His music tells the story of his downfall in real time. Back in 2020, his comeback album Tattletales debuted at number 4, but even then, it was drowned in backlash. By 2023, the mask had slipped. His reggaeton project Ley de Viva and the EP Blackballed didn't even chart. The hip-hop world had already moved on, leaving him scrambling for attention like a washed-up sideshow. But his fading career isn't even the most damning evidence. The real proof of his toxic influence is the violence that trails him everywhere he goes. Everyone who gets close to Tekashi ends up collateral damage in his endless war against the streets. That's why people linking Ariella's death to his snitching isn't wild conspiracy. It's the only conclusion that makes sense. The pattern started the moment he took that deal with the feds, and it hasn't stopped since. The investigation into Ariella's murder is still open, no arrests yet. But the message is clear as day. Being connected to 6ix9ine is a death sentence waiting to be carried out. And the fact that federal agencies are circling around the case shows they know this isn't just a local killing. It's fallout from Tekashi's cooperation agreement, with implications stretching far beyond New York. As of August 2025, Daniel Hernandez is still alive, but he's a walking target, haunted by the trail of destroyed lives and bodies left in his wake. His snitching bought him freedom from prison, but it locked him into a lifetime of paranoia, betrayal, and bloodshed. Sarah Molina barely survived his violence. Ariella La Langosta Maya Polanco wasn't so lucky. And the chilling question that remains is this: how many more lives will be lost before his enemies finally take him down? Because there's only one way this story ends, and it won't be with Tekashi 6ix9ine living happily ever after. The blood he spilled will keep rising until the day it finally comes back for him. If you made it this far, sound off in the comments. Do you think Tekashi will ever escape his past? Or is it only a matter of time before the streets catch up with him? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.